Hi everybody, I'm Joe Meyer, this is Joe's Compass, and growing up around punk rock, heavy metal, surfing, and skateboarding, the Iron Cross was always one of the most recognizable and widely used symbols out there. For being from the United States, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't at times feel uncomfortable around the symbol due to all the tension surrounding it. However, out here in Europe, especially in places like in Germany and in Austria, the Iron Cross can still be found in public places like on memorials and in monuments. And yet at the same time in these countries, the use of any kind of Nazi symbol is strictly forbidden by law. So that really put things into perspective for me. There's a much longer and deeper cultural context that should be taken into account if we're going to judge whether or not these kind of symbols are problematic. Thank you for watching my video. If you like it, please do me a favor, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel so that I can keep making videos like this. The Iron Cross. In the United States, this infamous symbol has had its fair share of controversy, and with its widespread use in alternative music cultures, tattoo culture, biker culture, and surf and skateboard culture, vocal critics have long sought to erase it from public use. The controversy has shown its face in criticism of Metallica's James Hetfield for sporting an Iron Cross-like symbol on his guitar, Motorhead frontman Lemmy's fascination with the Iron Cross and other World War II paraphernalia, and even the long-established skateboard company Independent Trucks, who changed its logo from an Iron Cross-like image to a more neutral diamond shape. All of this tension stems from what people perceive to be the connection between the Iron Cross and Nazism or fascism. The reason some critics relate the Iron Cross to Nazism is because of the fact that during World War II, soldiers of Nazi Germany's military, the Wehrmacht, used it alongside other symbols, like the more recognizable and unquestionably Nazi swastika. In addition, some of the people who sport the Iron Cross today are actual neo-Nazis and use it to spread hate. But despite the association with Nazism, is the Iron Cross actually a Nazi symbol? To put it simply, the answer is, well, complicated. There's a much longer history of the symbol that spans several centuries and different periods in time, both before and after the defeat of Nazi Germany in 1945. So in this video, I'll try to cover part of that story and hopefully explain how and why the Iron Cross is still displayed in countries like Austria and Germany today, and how it made its way into alternative cultures, leading to controversy in the United States and elsewhere. Different types of crosses have been used by different cultures for various reasons throughout human history. In the Christian tradition, the cross came to represent the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. But starting with the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great, the Christian cross became simultaneously a religious and militaristic symbol, as Constantine sought to expand the Roman Empire, consolidate his own power, and spread Christianity through the might of the Roman military. He even had a vision, supposedly, where a heavenly figure told him to put the crosses on his men's shields and they would be victorious in battle. After Constantine won the battle, he became the first emperor to publicly embrace Christianity. It was in this evolving relationship between warfare and Christianity that the Iron Cross as we know today emerged, and nowhere in history was this relationship more heightened than during the Crusades of the Middle Ages. At the end of the 11th century, Christian Europe united and sent thousands of soldiers from different kingdoms to invade and capture Jerusalem from Islamic forces. With back-and-forth battles to control the Holy Land and its surroundings, Christian armies adopted different versions of the cross as a military symbol. But the Iron Cross as a specifically German symbol begins with the establishment of the Knights of the Teutonic Order, created as a military order in the Kingdom of Jerusalem during the Third Crusade, when Europeans regained lost territory from Islamic forces. While most of the Crusaders and settlers in the Kingdom of Jerusalem were French-speaking, the Teutonic Order represented Germanic-speaking Crusaders, and in order to show their loyalty to the Christian Church, they too adopted a cross as their official symbol, and the predecessor to the Iron Cross was born. As a military order, the symbol of the Teutonic Knights not only represented German loyalty to the Church, but also prowess in warfare. While the Teutonic Order did some things that we might consider altruistic, like setting up hospitals, they were later involved in the violent forced Christianization of pagan peoples from the Baltic region, including partaking in multiple atrocities against indigenous pagan tribes, atrocities that included massacring civilians and forced deportation. The Iron Cross in its most recognizable and controversial form was established centuries later during the Napoleonic Wars. Frederick Wilhelm III, the King of Prussia, used the Iron Cross as a military decoration during what Germans consider to be the liberation wars against Napoleon and his invading French forces. But the combination of German identity with the Prussian military would become crucial in the modern period for the creation of a single unified German nation. And the founder of modern Germany, the Prussian statesman Otto von Bismarck, declared shortly before the unification of Germany in 1871 that Germans would achieve unification and glory, not through speeches and democratic elections, but through blood and iron. As a part of this policy of blood and iron, the new German Empire would adopt the symbol of the Prussian army, Representing the army of the German Empire, the cross was awarded to soldiers for valor and bravery in combat in the Franco-Prussian War and up through both World Wars. In fact, the Iron Cross has since become so important to cultural belonging for German speakers and German identity and its history of military prowess that a similar cross pate is still used by the German military today. Other similar versions of the cross were used during the American Civil War by the Union Army, the Army of Lincoln fighting against Southern separatism. Some of these are immediately recognizable, like the cross of the 1st Division of the Union Army's 16th Corps, which the skateboard company Independent Trucks adopted in the 1970s and then abandoned here in the 21st century, allegedly due to pressure that it too closely resembled a Nazi symbol. You have to admit, this is a bit ironic, since if we can consider the Union Army to be the force fighting against slavery in the South, this version of the cross could theoretically be used as an anti-racist symbol in the American context, as could this one, the emblem of the Union Army's 19th Corps, which resembles the cross used in skateboarding legend Tony Hawk's Powell Peralta logo. But if the cross's association with the North during the US Civil War, or with 19th century Prussia was the whole story, it likely wouldn't be such a controversial symbol today. So why have some metalheads, punks, skaters, bikers, and rockers adopted this symbol that was really originally just the symbol of the Prussian and other militaries? Some have equated the Iron Cross to the emergence of white supremacism due to the use of the symbol by the Nazi German armed forces during World War II. However, there seems to be more to the story than this. Starting in the 1960s, biker culture began to explode in the United States, representing a new counterculture that began largely with returning veterans from the US Armed Forces. With an outlaw attitude and a rejection of the American social norms that were prevalent in the 1950s, bikers formed clubs and promoted an anti-conformist attitude. Early biker clubs who formed in the late 1940s popularized the biker lifestyle and its antisocial ethos. But among this early group of clubs, many of the members were themselves American veterans of World War II, some of whom even fought against the Nazis. By the 1960s, a new breed of youth cultures rebelling against the generation of World War II veterans, who were now their parents' age, took things to a new level. One of the major symbols adopted by this new generation of social outcasts was, you guessed it, the Iron Cross. Ed Big Daddy Roth, a Southern Californian artist who created the hot rod icon Ratfink, also developed the so-called Surfer's Cross, which basically took the Prussian Iron Cross and slapped the figure of a surfer on top of it. Despite the long history of the symbol, American parents very clearly associated it with the Nazi regime that their country fought against in World War II, and the youth displayed it in order to get a rise out of their elders. As a 15-year-old youth in a Time magazine article from 1966 put it, it really upsets your parents. That's why everyone buys them. And with Big Daddy Roth's biker gang associations, the Iron Cross bridged different countercultures from California surfers to bikers throughout the US. While some of the people who used the symbol were actually racist and used it to spread messages of hate, most people seem to have used it for shock value. Either way, it's important to also note that the Iron Cross's usage by Germany gained popularity in the United States even before it was used by the Nazis. German pilot Manfred von Richthofen, better known as the Red Baron, helped to popularize the symbol during and after World War I. With his infamous red biplane, the Red Baron terrorized the skies of the Western Front, shooting down countless Allied planes and other aircraft. His skills as a fighting ace captured the imagination of Americans who begrudgingly looked at his accomplishments with mixed admiration, while he and other German fighter aces were used as major villains in war propaganda. After meeting his fiery death after being shot down in 1918 at the age of 25, just a few months before the end of the war, the Red Baron's popularity and legend only continued to grow. By the 1960s, the popularity of the Red Baron as an anti-hero and villain spread in American popular culture. Now, it should be mentioned that the German forces in World War I, like the Red Baron, were not Nazis, as the Nazi Party had not yet come into existence. This should go without saying, but unfortunately sometimes people have trouble separating the two world wars. Despite this, many historians agree that the German forces in the First World War were the major aggressors, and were known for their ruthlessness and breaking conventions of warfare in several instances, like being the first to use deadly poisonous gas on Allied troops in 1915, and the targeting of civilians. And these tactics would change the face of warfare and inspire some of the Nazis who came later. But still, during World War I, the Iron Cross as a military decoration was also awarded to several Jewish German soldiers, including some of Adolf Hitler's own superior officers, who were also Jewish. While the Iron Cross before, during, and after the Nazis were in power was often issued for military bravery and courage, some of the soldiers that received it were involved in horrendous atrocities, from the killing of civilians in Belgium in World War I to colonial atrocities, especially the Herero genocide in present-day Namibia, where German soldiers led by Lothar von Trotha forced civilians into exile, where they were deliberately starved and thirsted to death. So, when you see an Iron Cross at a punk rock or heavy metal show, or on a skateboard design, is it a Nazi symbol? Well, this might not be the answer anyone is looking for, but it can be. And for some, the fact that it can be might just be enough grounds for banning it. But it really depends. If it looks like this, then obviously it's a Nazi symbol. Or if the people sporting it themselves associate it with the Nazis, then it is probably also a Nazi symbol. But if it looks like this, it might be a bit of conjecture to automatically assume that this is a reference to white supremacy in general. In the case of independent trucks, skateboarding has attracted a very diverse group of people for a long time, so I have a hard time believing that the company's symbol was used to espouse white supremacist attitudes, and plus, as I mentioned, it more closely resembles an American Union Army symbol. But even the traditional Prussian cross pate can't always be considered a Nazi symbol in and of itself. In fact, since all Nazi and fascist symbols are outlawed in Germany today, and flashing a swastika could lead to a fine or even jail time, the Iron Cross itself is not considered a Nazi symbol, and as I mentioned, an updated version of it is still used by the German military today. Throughout Austria and Germany, the symbol can still be found on memorials to fallen soldiers and even on churches. Plus, I should mention, people who wear the Iron Cross in heavy music scenes out of Nazi affiliation or to try to associate the Iron Cross with Nazism out of some kind of rebellion or nonconformity are, in my humble opinion, stupid as fuck. I mean, the Nazis were all about conformity. All you have to do is watch the Hitler propaganda film Triumph of the Will to get a sense of how the Nazis thought everyone should look. I mean, come on, if Lemmy walked into a Nazi party rally in the 1930s looking like this, with a Little Richard shirt, Prussian Iron Cross, and an American Civil War Union Army emblem on his hat, you can imagine what would have happened. Just as dumb, in my opinion, is that with a lot of metalheads and punks espousing either an anti-religious, atheistic, or even a satanic worldview, then why would you wear a cross that represents the crucifix and even the forceful Christianization of European pagans? So, even if the Iron Cross doesn't always have to be a Nazi symbol, it is definitely and unarguably a symbol of militarism and violence, associated with violent Christian extremism, war, and colonialism. Now, if you're going to use a different version of the cross for whatever reason, that maybe looks more like the flag of the Prince Bishopric of Montenegro in 1516, or the coat of arms of an English noble family, then it doesn't hurt to be aware of that too. It's always good to be informed of the history of things, especially if you're going to wear them. Now, you won't find me with the specifically Prussian version of the Iron Cross because I have no desire whatsoever to associate myself with the German military. However, when it comes to company logos like Independent or Tony Hawk, I have no problem with those symbols. And I think we as a society could do a little bit better to be more careful and responsible in terms of deciding what types of symbols are problematic or not. Now, with that said, even though I do have a background in history, I'm not trying to be the final authority on this subject whatsoever. So please let me know what you think in your comments. What is your relationship with this symbol? What are your thoughts on it? But please keep the comments friendly and please leave out any kind of hateful or disrespectful comments. Thanks again for watching. See you next time on Joe's Compass.